I felt like for 20 years, I had to be so just heads down in tech. I almost had to convince myself that those passions didn't exist.
Pretty much every founder I ever worked with at YC would always be like, Dalton, when are you going to do your own company again?
Perhaps my biggest regret is if one day I look back and I was like, oh, I didn't get to explore all those things.
I think I've always lived by the philosophy that if I just pushed myself really hard and I tried to do really good work with interesting people,
Yes.
interesting things would happen.
All right, this is Dalton plus Michael, and today we're going to talk about life changes. I don't know about you, Dalton. I've had a couple life changes. How about you?
Yeah, there's a lot of new things.
Yeah.
Different environment here, changes for the viewers.
Yes. There's a microphone like in our face, which is awkward.
There's some differences.
Yes. So what are you up to nowadays?
Well, I'm now a partner emeritus at YC, and I've started a new VC firm called Standard Capital.
Big change.
Yeah, it's a big change.
Big change. For me, as well, a partner emeritus, and so still a ton of office hours, which is kind of crazy. But it's been amazing. I've kind of been prodded to try to help make San Francisco better, and it's been an adventure.
That sounds really easy, fixing San Francisco, Michael.
Well, as a tech bro, let me tell you.
You have all the answers, right? It's just that easy. You're the guy.
It has been humbling, to say the least. It's been so much fun getting to meet public servants and just learn something completely new. I think they're all a little surprised in the beginning of the conversation when I don't start with like tech bro answers. I'm like I don't come with my like recipe for like, why aren't you suck.
Have you thought about using AI?
Yeah. Have you thought about just doing these things? Have you thought like, oh, like there's public safety problem. Have you thought about just deputizing all adult males and drafting them into a police force? Like, ooh. And so that's been really fun because I think that people get a little disarmed when I'm like, I don't know anything. Like I like government. I believe in government, but I really don't know anything. And maybe 1% to 6% of the things I've learned in software and tech might be relevant, and the rest is kind of new. So
that's very humble of you. You're probably blowing they're like, do they think you're tricking them?
No, I think what I've learned is tech bros come in pretty hard, pretty fast, pretty hot. So,
okay.
So I think within 5 minutes they're like, oh, this is a different conversation. And it's funny because I think a lot of the times I'm asking a version of, can I just see what's happening? Like, can I look over someone's shoulder? No, not even dashboards. Like, can I see someone doing something and just start asking myself the question, like, would and or could I do it differently? And like, that's like a very different approach apparently. Anyways, to move forward, why did you decide that this was the right time to do something new?
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, to start with, I did 25 batches, and that's like a good round number.
Yes.
I also have a newborn. So my daughter was born really recently, like at the end of February.
Yeah.
And so, we've been through this, man. You go through a lot of life reflection around that.
Yes.
Also, honestly, man, you leaving kind of, I can't say that didn't affect my overall psychology.
Sure.
It was certainly more top of mind.
Yeah.
And look, I'm really excited about what I'm doing next. I love the work. I love working with founders, and I love doing office hours, and I actually love the craft.
Yes.
And I'm kind of excited to be a founder again myself. It always felt a little weird to be like, founders are great and all that, and be like, well, I'm not a founder. I'm just an employee here.
Yes.
And so look, it's really freeing to just be able to start a new company from scratch. Like we've talked about it so much on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Literally, I signed all the documents and set up payroll and
nice.
I did all the stuff that we've been talking about, and I'm really proud of that. Like it feels good to start something again.
That makes sense. So in terms of helping everyone else out here, I think it'd be interesting to talk about, in general, how should people make big life decisions?
Yeah.
It was funny because I think that there were a couple people that I spoke to about this that kind of put me in the right frame of mind. The first one was my old co-founder, Justin. And, I was talking to him. I was like, yeah, it's been 11 years at YC and this and that. And, maybe I could just do this job till I retire. And I could kind of just hear the naked judgment Like I could hear.
What did it sound like? What does
I
naked
don't,
judgment
I
sound
don't
like?
know. It just, but like, you know someone for so long. And he said something that got to me. He was like, you could literally write everything that will happen between now and retirement if you stay at YC. And like, is that the life you want? Like, do you want a life that's that predictable? Especially because you're like financially secure. And I was like,
yeah, I mean, you do love chaos, Michael. Let's be honest. Let's be real.
I like chaos.
You love chaos. You thrive on it.
Yes.
So he knew how to push your buttons.
He knew how to push my buttons. The second person, my wife, Sarah. So I was talking to Sarah casually about what post-retirement is like. I weirdly love chaos and planning, which is
that's great.
Anyways. And she said something to me that really got me. She's like, you've spent your entire adult life in San Francisco. I was like, yes, I moved here at 23. And she said, you spent 10 years giving back to YC because YC changed the trajectory of your life. And I was like, yes. And then she looked at me, she's like, so are you going to do anything for San Francisco? And I was like,
Again, she knows how to push your button. These people in your life, they know where to push you, man.
And it's weird because like I've always thought to myself, it's easy when you're in tech. It's like, yeah, I guess I live here, but my users are all over the globe, right? Like you can kind of tell yourself like, oh, aren't you post local? But when you wake up and you're like, this is where you spent your entire adult life, you're so maybe there's an obligation there. And the last one was Steve Huffman from Reddit, who kind of casually said at some point in the last year, and it always stuck in my head, I fully expect most of the capable people we know will end up doing something in public service before they fully retire. And he just said it with such an inevitability. I mean, it's as inevitable as like you would have a will. Or like you would how could you look at yourself with that?
That's no more far-fetched than him being the CEO of a public company. Man. You know what I'm saying? In the scheme of plausible things.
Yes, exactly.
That's definitely plausible.
And so it's funny because like those things were rattling in my head. And I think what I've noticed about making big life decisions is like people say stuff to you all the time, but when it sticks, there's something deeper going on when like you can kind of live quote them a couple weeks, a couple months later.
Yeah.
How about you? Were there any conversations that kind of helped shape your thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, pretty much every founder I ever worked with at YC would always be like, Dalton, when are you going to do your own company again? Like, I'm sure you got this too. Yes. This was like in the top 5 questions I got as a YC partner. Yes. They were always like, hey man, just between you and me, when are you going to start your own company again? I'd be like, no, this is great. I always had my answer, but it's kind of always top of mind when someone's a YC partner.
Yes.
Is that we're all founders. And it's kind of hard to corral founders in any one place for an extended period of time.
It is tricky. It helps when they're having kids or are otherwise life distracted.
Yeah. I think that was certainly something that stuck in my mind. It's just the constant questions about that. And, I had various answers that were true.
Yeah.
And then look, man, talking to my wife and my family just about having complete agency over my calendar, agency over what I spend time on, agency over all that stuff it's like pretty important.
Yeah.
And if you think about the advice that we've been giving to people on YouTube all these years, we always just tell people opt for the high agency route.
Yeah.
Opt for doing your own thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's hard, you're going to like yourself more about it than doing the comfortable thing, And so I think, talking to my wife about a lot of this stuff in terms of our calendar and our home life, this made a bunch of sense. And look, I'm super excited about how well AI is working for our portfolio companies.
Yes.
And so if you think about it, this is my equivalent of starting my own startup using AI.
Sure.
So I have founder market fit to be an investor.
Yes.
It'd be very hard for me to go start a true pure play AI company.
Well, you got to be careful about that founder term because people on Twitter yell at VCs when they...
It's true. Well, I think it's when they're like, not the founders of their VC firm. They just say they're operators. So for what it's worth, it's
true. That is true.
Paul Graham really is the founder of YC. Like, does that make sense? Like Paul Graham is a founder by starting YC.
I was a founding investor.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's completely fair. But the founders of the VC firms, I do think they deserve the title.
That's fair.
I think, Ben and Mark from Andreessen, those were the founders of Andreessen.
Well, and there aren't that many. I've been surprised at how few people, it seems like, start funds to build institutions.
Yeah. It's hard.
Hard. I agree.
And so that weighed heavily on me. And there's this big innovator's dilemma thing where if you're trying to graft AI onto an existing business, it's much harder than starting something from scratch.
Yep.
So just across the YC portfolio in general, we like to fund from scratch disruptors to existing industries that are using AI to run their thing versus trying to buy a company and then put AI on it.
This came up so aggressively in the mobile world where like you and I both know so many people who are working on mobile startups before iPhone. And like, you would think they were in the best position, it's like, oh, they're all squared away. Like they were in mobile, iPhone happens. None of the YC winners had that profile.
Yep.
Like all of the YC winners in mobile started after mobile came out. And so I do think there is something about if a new technology hits, having to start from scratch. Otherwise, are you really going to embrace and adopt the new technology? Or is there always going to be
it's the classic innovators dilemma. You have to, again, we see this in our current SaaS portfolio, YC. Yes. A lot of people have a ton of revenue in SaaS.
Yes.
And they know they're going to get disrupted by AI, but that means they have to give up all that revenue.
Yes.
You've done these office hours.
It's hard.
I've been doing a lot of these. It's hard to cut off the thing that's been working and got you this far.
Yes.
In lieu of doing something new. And so, that weighed heavily on my mind. And honestly, like talking to founders has been inspiring to me too, because there's find your own way to do it, but keep doing the work, man. Keep doing your wacky investing stuff. And I think it's been super cool. Like all the notes that I got, I know you got them too, announcing that I was doing this and leaving YC, just the sheer amount of good vibes.
Yeah, that was kind of
super cool.
Crazy. I think that as an aside, a maybe weirdly unfortunate part of doing YC for so long is that you touch so many people's lives, but for you, that's just the day to day.
Yeah.
And seeing all that response that both of us got when we announced we were leaving, I was like, oh crap. It was just this really big reminder, oh my God, you're a main character.
Yeah.
In thousands of people's lives.
It's pretty cool. It's like what's the thing? The Mark Twain story where he attended his own funeral.
Yeah. Yes.
And to hear what people say.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. And you would never get that amount of good vibes in any other circumstance except when there's a big life change.
Yeah.
And so it's one way to kind of take stock of where you're at in life.
It's a feedback loop you only get access to if you take a big leap.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I think the other thing for me, and I think, different people are built differently. I remember having a lot of passions outside of tech. And I remember when I was trying to make this decision, I felt like for 20 years I had to be so just heads down in tech. I almost had to convince myself that those passions didn't exist. Because it's this is a hard game. And when you're not focused, it's an impossible game. But one of the weird things one of the weird techniques that helped me, I got kicked out of college. And in order to kind of get the motivation to go back and graduate from Yale, I was I need to make a life plan. I think what I was really responding to was that these institutions in the moment like Yale weren't motivating me. I thought I'd be as motivated to graduate from Yale as I was to get into it. And completely not the case. And so it's kind of all right, I got to put some other things out there where graduating is going to be prerequisite, but this thing isn't the actual end game. And so for me, it was a simple plan. It was 20s, money, 30s, family, 40s, government, retire and teach. That was a plan that I made when I was 21 years old.
When you're 21?
When I was 21 years old, Dalton. And it was funny. I said this to somebody and they were you're crazy. They were it is crazy that you would consider planning your whole life. And I feel people who know me really well, they're that's pretty on brand. But for this person I was talking
Michael, it's a little crazy to plan your whole life. I'm not with you on this one, man. I'm not with you.
Not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Not for, your mileage might vary, but it's been 20 years and things have awkwardly followed that plan. And so, I just turned 42 and I was kind of, I think subconsciously in the back of my head, it was kind of like, the plan.
Yeah.
Like, what about the plan? The plan's been working. What about the plan? And I would have been more than happy to change the plan if I felt like it needed to be changed, right? Like, like who cares, right? It's not like everything was really perfectly laid out. And by the way, that's not that detailed of a plan, right? I mean, it's like one word per decade. But like having that reminded me about the other things that I really liked. Rolling back into what Justin said, like I now have the opportunity, the privilege to be able to explore these other things that I like.
Yeah.
And perhaps my biggest regret is if one day I look back and I was like, oh, I didn't get to explore all those things. And so for me, like that really kind of cinched it because it was like, oh, okay, like this is just the next phase of the plan, right? This is just the next. And what's really funny is going into each of those phases, I had no idea. You start a company with your co-founder who wears a camera on his head, broadcasting 24/7.
Sounds like a $1 billion company.
Right. You're not drawing a straight line to money, right? And like, family was kind of, I was 30, I was dating my wife, but like we weren't married, we didn't have kids, right? Like and so for me, it was kind of like, this plan never works where you take a leap and it's like a safe leap.
Yeah.
This plan always works where it's kind of like, you got to take a leap and then you got to feel your way down. And so that's what's been so fun over the past 3 to 4 months is like taking that leap and then realizing like, oh shit, I really do like this other stuff.
Yeah.
I still love tech, but does it have to be 97%? Like it doesn't,
maybe, I don't know.
There are enough people who can carry the ball on the tech side.
Yeah.
And so that's been incredible.
I think I've always lived by the philosophy that if I just pushed myself really hard and I tried to do really good work with interesting people, interesting things would happen. Okay. And that's kind of how I got from just some guy in Texas onto like this crazy life trajectory I've been on.
That sounds like a life plan.
I get, but do you see what I'm saying? I was like,
or a life philosophy.
It's totally life philosophy, which is I should always be almost like uncomfortable. Like I should always be right at the limits of my skill set. I should always be pushing myself right to where I'm like redlining.
Yes.
And again, we've done some crazy stuff together. You understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Like reinventing YC to run on Zoom.
Yes. COVID was fun.
It was right at the limits of our skill set.
Yes. Yes. While having children.
While having children. I've always been my own worst critic. I've always been hard on myself. And I just wanted to feel like I was pushing myself to the very limit. And if I just kept doing this, that would compound over enough time to just have a really interesting life.
Okay.
And I've been kind of subscribing to that theory and continue to do so.
I think for you, maybe a question that I would ask is, what was something kind of counterintuitive that people don't know, that founders don't know about setting up a fund? Something weird, something different, not like about like the strategy fund, but just more just kind of like inside baseball.
At the end of the day, a lot of the people at big companies or successful franchises, they know in their heart, if they're self-aware, that people are nice to them and respect them because they work somewhere that is important and powerful. And, there's two ways you can deal with that. Either one, you believe that you're special. And so you're like, oh, I'm a PM at Facebook. I'm a really big dog. I'm so important. Like
we love Facebook PMs. They're some of the best people on earth.
Great. But like you basically,
I'm really good friends with the Facebook.
I'm sure you are. You basically confuse the power of the place you work with yourself, and so you get you get entangled.
Yes.
Where your identity and your work identity are the same thing.
Yeah.
And you just get really, I don't know, like you get confused about what's what. The non-self-aware people are just unaware of this, and they're they leave an important job and they're just like shocked. And then I think the self-aware people are aware of this.
Yeah.
And this is why they stay in those jobs forever, is because they're like, hey, if I leave, no one's going to be nice to me anymore. I'm going to lose all the juice that I had. And so I think this is what keeps people, they won't admit this in public, but I think a lot of people are kept in various jobs with the correct self-awareness that the moment they leave, no one will return their calls anymore. People may be like, wow, these guys have it all figured out. Like these guys have it all locked in.
Yes.
Every day must be stress-free. No, this is hard.
Yeah.
Just like I'm imagining trying to fix city government's hard. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, man. Yeah. Like I've done a lot of hard stuff, but to start something from scratch, especially at the scale of what we're trying to do, this is objectively the hardest thing I've ever done.
If you're in that mindset, and I agree with you, that like, if you only know how good you are when you're kind of in that hard charging, in that most stressful moment, it's almost like another reason to consider making a big life change. Because it's like, you only really know your top speed and your top capability in those moments.
Right.
And like, ditto when people don't kind of have to say yes to you. Right, you're kind of getting a real grade, not like you're
a civilian again. You know, it's like people in the government. All these people retire from government jobs, and imagining they treat you differently. Once you retire from a government job.
I would say for myself. So one, I don't want to take on the mantle of fixing government. That's at least more than a 3-month task. I think the only thing I'm excited about is trying to help. But I think that what I can do, it might be interesting, is just kind of go over a little bit of what I've learned.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a TLDR after, I don't know, 90 to 120 hours of conversations with people in city government, conversations with citizens, and thinking. So I would say the first inning of knowledge. First one, I think what is most obvious to me and what scares me might not be obvious to other people is like most people who work in government are trying to do the right thing. Most people who are working in government are capable people who are actively choosing to take a lower salary to give back. So that's like a big deal. So the second thing that I've learned that's been very surprising me is like, I expected more smoky rooms. Like I expected more like the people want this, but we're going to like do this other thing.
That's what people think about tech too.
Yeah.
Where they actually think that there's a lot more coordination. There's not as much coordination as people think.
There are many problems where when I kind of got to the root of them, it was our politicians and our government doing the things that we said we wanted. And then it turns out we didn't know
it was a bad
idea. Right thing. like it so reminds me of like listening to your users and your users being like,
they want something bad.
Yeah. Like I want all the text on the website to be black and the background to be black. And it's hard. You can't run A/B tests in the same way. Like this is a hard environment, but like, I was shocked how often it was like, yeah, we did what the voters told us to do. And it was like, oh, shit, okay. I think the other thing I didn't realize is like in the same tone, we as citizens drive the bureaucracy. Like, I think this story is not told the right way. Like, it's always told like we're victims of government bureaucracy. It's like we are actually driving the government to create rules to make the government less efficient. Like every time there's like one bad apple, we are like, put in all the new rules. Like, how could this happen? And then like there's 50 new rules. And if a company were run this way, it would never work.
Well, big companies are run this way, where when something bad happens,
put a lot of rules.
The scar tissue is to create rules to prevent that bad thing from ever happening.
But big companies can't do it as well as government. Government can create rules that you can go to jail if you break.
No, that's what's crazy. Is they're enforced by the police.
Yes.
So I think that's a fair
kind
point.
Of rule.
All right, fair point.
But it's like, but once again, it's triggered by us. Yeah. It's triggered by like somebody made a mistake, honest or not, and us being like, how could you let that happen? Like, how could the government not play error-free ball like for 100 years with all? Well, and so that's like a big one where I'm just like, if you think you're a victim of bureaucracy, like a city worker is the largest victim of the bureaucracy. I think the other one that kind of, and this applies outside of government, but this really got me. We were talking about this earlier. Like, I took for granted that software companies build their own tools. That's just like a muscle that they have that we've always had. And I think that what I'm realizing is how many organizations don't have that muscle. It's basically, if we're using software, it means some vendor's building it for us. It's sad because think about how many tiny tools that we built at YC were like, God forbid, I mean, most people know about Bookface now, right? God forbid we had to find a vendor who would sell us like YC alumni
Or
side.
like a vendor for the application.
Oh
flow.
God.
You
God,
imagine?
like we would have
We wanted to change some text on the application. We'd have to
call someone, call our account manager.
Yeah.
It never would have worked. And I think I just took for granted how many times we were making our own tools. And now I'm like looking at an organization that like it's very, very, very hard for them to make their own tools. And it's like, oh, that's bad. And I understand why, right? And but it's like it's harder. I think the other one that keeps on coming up, you think that government has these powers and these responsibilities, and you kind of don't want to make it a human operation. You want to make it a machine. It's like, well, the permitting process is bad. This supervisor can write legislation to improve it. These people need to vote for it, and then it's done. And when you start talking to people, it's like, obviously, everything is humans. Everything is humans. And so it's really nice to kind of be the Twitter tech bro and like try to like solve all the city's problems in like a tweet, you know? But just like the more I've learned, the more it's just like, you know, I had this thought the other day, was that, you know, it's easier trying to advise a founder to build a successful company. Like that's easier. You know, with the amount of research I've done, it's not like there are no conclusions. There's no like,
Oh, that's great. I thought you were going to, I was waiting for the conclusion.
No, there's no conclusion.
I thought you were going to fix
There's
everything.
no solution. Like this is hard. And by the way, like that's different for me. Usually with this amount of engagement in anyone's company, I would be able to offer like advice. I am nowhere close to like.
So iPads isn't the solution. I'm just kidding.
Just like everyone needs iPad. No. To bring it back, like I respect people in public service even more. It's like they're taking on the hardest problems.
Yeah.
They're not getting paid crazy amounts of money. We are making their lives harder as citizens, and then we shit on them. And then like they're subject to the wind just like every other business, but we pretend like we're in this hermetically sealed environment the government controls. I used to think startups was one of the most stressful, hardest jobs imaginable. And I'm like,
yeah, that sounds rough.
this is, it's like, yes. Like I almost, sometimes in my conversations, I feel like I'm just like, I have to express compassion. I'm like, this is, I respect you for doing this. So anyways, I think that's what's been kind of humbling and fun. And like, this is where I live. So it's like, if I want to contribute to where I live, you got to learn this stuff. Most people can have a renter mentality, but some people have to have a bit more of an owner mentality at some point. And I feel like maybe I've been renting too long, you know? So
that's very noble of you. I think a lot of people are just renters for life, man.
Renters, make some t-shirts. Anyways, final advice for people listening to this video, contemplating a big life decision. Maybe it's starting a company, maybe it's starting a family, maybe it's moving to the Bay Area. What do you think?
You know, here's the trick that I do that I would actually recommend. I think people are used to now writing prompts for LLMs, and that you realize after you've written prompts for a while that the better the prompt, the more likely you get a good answer. You still with me, right? Like you have to spend time.
Very much so. Yes.
And I think there's a superpower we can all develop of crafting the prompts for ourselves and thinking about it that way when we're making decisions.
Yes.
Which is like, you know, given these constraints or given this and given that, and kind of like try to formulate your thoughts into a very cohesive, linear way.
Yeah.
And then I think you tend to get pretty good answers. And the prompt that I keep giving myself is, if I were doing office hours with myself, what would I say? Because when I do that, somehow a whole different part of my brain is activated, because we're so used to giving advice about things. I'm always like, well, what advice would I give myself? And I've had a lot of, I'm not sure that would work for everybody, but I've had a lot of luck with that type of prompt. And in general, I think thinking of your own thoughts as prompts and trying to curate them is a pretty good hack, man.
I like that. I think if I try to extract out the prompt, perhaps I'm subconsciously giving myself, it would probably be some version of, you've been incredibly lucky. When all's said and done, what's the story that can be told about like how you gave back, like in thanks for being that lucky? I don't think you can deserve to be lucky, but I think that like if you are lucky, you can kind of give the world thanks. And so like how do you maximize that? I think is interesting. And I think YC gave me a great opportunity to that, but I think maybe government is one of the single places that gives you more of an opportunity to do that. All right. Well, great chat. Welcome back. There are going to be more of these. Have a great day.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Michael.